Hello, this is Chapter 8, and today we're going to be talking about motivation from concepts to applications. So in Chapter 7, we talked about motivational theories and concepts. In Chapter 8, we're going to now apply them closer to organizations. So after this lecture, you should be able to understand a little bit better different job characteristics, compare ways jobs can be redesigned, explain specific alternative work arrangements, describe how employee involvement measures can motivate people, demonstrate the different types of variable pay, show how flexible benefits turn benefits into motivators, and identify the motivational benefits of intrinsic rewards, such as employee recognition. Okay, so let's start with motivated by job design, the job characteristics model. So the job characteristic model looks at describing any job in terms of 5 core business dimensions. These job dimensions include skill variety, which is the degree to which a job incorporates a number of different skills and talents. Task identity is another dimension that looks at the degree to which the job requires the completion of a whole and identifiable piece of work. Task significance is included and looks at how the job impacts the lives of others. Autonomy, the 4th dimension, identifies how much freedom and independence workers have over their jobs. And finally, feedback is how much jobs generate direct and clear information about the worker's performance. Now, if we look at these closely, skill variety, so this, the work that, how many skills are incorporated in the work that you do. So a lot of times, no one likes a very repetitive or routine type of job. They want a job where, the more different skills you use during the workday, generally, the better the job. Okay, so task identity, which basically means that when you complete your job, you see that, can you feel and see that the job has been done? That you have an idea what the task is, and then you can see that it's been completed, like assembling a bicycle. Task significance, which is how important is this task? How much does it affect your life, other people's lives, the ability of the corporation to make money? Autonomy, which, how much freedom do you have as a worker to decide your schedule, to decide what you're working on, to organize your output. And then feedback, the degree to which carrying out your activities, of course, is going to generate some sort of feedback for you as far as the work that you've completed. So these are all very important characteristics of a job that can motivate people if they're designed better. So the job characteristic model, we start here at the core job dimensions. And then which are, skill variety, task identity, task significance, autonomy, and feedback. Basically, we just described on the other slide. And we move to the critical psychological states. So skill, variety, task, and significance, identity can develop right, experience meaningfulness at work. So if you are satisfied in these 3 areas, your work becomes more meaningful for you. If you have autonomy, kind of having more decisions about how you're going to do your job, you're going to experience more responsibility for the outcome of your work. And these directly lead to the output and work outcomes. But let's go back to feedback. So feedback, knowledge of the actual results of your work activities. Okay, so if you are in these, if you have good job dimensions and you're getting good feedback, but putting you in a good psychological state, that's going to help to increase your motivation, increase your quality, increase your satisfaction, lower your absenteeism. And so the personal outcomes is what motivates you. So if you feel like your job is a well-designed job and you're getting significant results from your job, then you are going to be a more satisfied, productive employee. Okay, so designing motivational jobs. So JCM creates motivational jobs as they are designed to give internal rewards. And of course, JCM is Job Characteristics Model. Just trying to shorten things up a bit. Okay, so positive outcomes are moderated by individual growth needs, and each individual will respond differently. So in order for the jobs to increase motivation, there should be a high degree of autonomy, feedback, and at least one meaningful factor such as significance, identity, or variety. And note that the JCM is relatively individualistic. Job enrichment strategies might not have the same effect in a collective culture as they do in more individually oriented culture such as the United States. So you can use these job characteristics model to help better design a job. So how can a job be designed? One area is to make it more motivational, more meaningful, significant to the employee is job rotation. So that is changing things up for the employee, giving them different things to do, rotating them on different tasks. And this first came into prominence in the factory. So they found that factory workers, when they repeated the same tasks, such as putting tires on cars, and that's all they did every day, they noticed that employees had a higher absenteeism rating, the turnover was higher, more physical problems with lower backs and just from doing the same mechanical movement every day. So by actually rotating people's jobs, so every day they would do something different. One day they'd be installing tires, one day they'd be installing wiper blades, one day they'd be installing windshields, one day they'd be installing doors. So rotating the job made the job more satisfying and made it more interesting. So the monotony was broken down. And also in the office, sometimes working for a smaller company, you get a greater degree of job rotation than working for a larger company, because larger companies tend to want to put you into one small job role, where in a smaller company you will take on many different tasks. Job enrichment. Well, that's why job rotation is important for large companies to look at, to make sure that there's a varying of tasks in the job. Job enrichment, which is increasing the degree to which the worker controls planning, execution, evaluation, and if the person feels more personally invested in the job, it will reduce absenteeism, increase satisfaction. So these are some helpful ways to take a person's job, redesign it, and motivate the employees. And these two common practices of job rotation and job enrichment is looking to keep employees satisfied with the work that they're doing. So, and this is important because this is what helps people. Because remember, you have jobs for long periods of time, and you spend a lot of hours at jobs. So if the job is just too routine and too monotonous, people are going to get dissatisfied quickly and going to leave. So here's some guides for enriching a job. So some suggested actions would be combined tasks, and this could lead to skill variety and also task identity. Form natural work units, and again, task significance and identity, and a social aspect. Establish client relationships, task variety and feedback from clients. Expand jobs vertically, which is, there's horizontal is doing more of the same, but vertically can be a little bit different as far as taking on responsibilities of a manager. So if you want to vertically move as an employee, we'll give you some of the managerial responsibilities and tasks, and that leads more to autonomy. And open feedback channels, which of course is more feedback. So job enrichment is helpful for keeping the worker engaged in their work, and that's the key. So you want to keep them engaged, and you want to keep them involved. And there are many actions a manager can do to help the worker become more engaged. And these actions help to achieve what improve core job dimensions. So if the manager combines tasks for the worker, it can help the worker increase the amount of skills they are utilizing and help the worker identify tasks that can be completed. And this action can help the worker to have a better understanding of the job and how it helps the organization complete its goals, and how it helps the worker enjoy his work and become, because he's using more of the skills, more of a bigger skill set, becoming more functional. So how can jobs be redesigned? Well, a lot of research is focused on how to make jobs more personally motivating to people. In other words, how can managers design work so that employees are motivated to promote the well-being of the organization's beneficiaries, customers, clients, patients, employees. So this is a big task for managers to really look at employees and what they're doing and figure out a way to motivate them by reorganizing, redesigning their jobs, to make it more relatable to who the employees are and how they relate to customers, and how they connect directly to employees, the beneficiaries of the business. Okay, so how can jobs be redesigned? So here is just some ideas. There are some alternative work arrangements that have been successful in helping increase the motivation of workers. These arrangements give workers more control over their work and thereby can increase the level of motivation. As an example is flex time. So flex time is short for flexible work hours, which allows workers to choose what hours they work within a set time period. For example, if workers need to work 8 hours a day, the manager may, let them choose the 8 hours they want to work. So maybe they'll want to work from, they'll give them a time frame from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. at night. You choose the 8 hours you want to work. So that flexibility allows, a mom to be home with her kids when the school bus comes home. Flexibility is popular with both within and outside the United States. Another alternative work arrangement is job sharing, where 2 workers split the job and each worker works part-time. This is becoming popular in Japan, where it allows employees to avoid being laid off due to overstaffing. Telecommuting is another big alternative work arrangement that allows people to work from home. So if you think about this, if you live in a high traffic area, commuting to work to be there at 8:30 or 9 o'clock and leaving at 5:30 to come home, you could spend 2 or 3 times the amount that it would in traffic than it would take you necessarily to get to work. So just shifting your hours between 6 a.m., so coming in 2 hours early and leaving at 3 instead of 5, avoids a lot of traffic. Same thing with telecommuting. If you telecommute 2 or 3 days a week, those are 3 days that you don't have to spend the time, energy, and expense of being in traffic. And also allows for employees to have more flexible schedules. So if they have a doctor's appointment or if they have children to take care of in the morning or afternoon, these flex times, just make make your life a little bit easier. And therefore, if you're able to, the idea is if you're able to fit work around your life a little bit better, work becomes less of a struggle and you become more motivated and more appreciative of the job and hopefully want to stay there longer. Employee involvement. So employee involvement is identified as participating in the process that employees are allowed to give inputs to increase their commitment in the overall success of the organization. Depending on the country involved, it may be necessary to modify employee involvement programs to reflect the local culture. Some examples of programs that help with employee involvement are, participative management, representative participation. So basically, what these 2 types are is that employees are getting more involved in how they're going to be managed. They're getting more involved in how, their inputs to how the job is designed, how the process is laid out as far as how they're going to participate as a corporate citizen, and that gives you more buy-in as an employee. And anytime your ideas, your voice is heard, you feel a little bit more satisfied. So the basic idea here is that if, as an employee, you feel like you're part of the process, that you're contributing to the way the company operates, then you become a more satisfied and motivated employee. Okay, so let's talk about, of these 2 types, let's talk a little bit more about participative management. So participative management occurs when a manager includes employees in the decision-making process. So if you're participating, management at times at certain times, managers are considered how can I say, to blame for poor morale and and low productivity. So in reality, if a manager is good at being more participative in the management process with his employees, he tends to be more effective. And followers, though, must have a trust and confidence in their leaders in order for this to be successful. So leaders should refrain from coercive techniques, forcing employees to do things with strict punishments or strict protocols, and instead stress the organizational consequences if the decisions are made in a collective environment, then we'll all sort of participate in the success or failure of that department. So this type of employee involvement program has been shown to have limited impact on productivity, motivation, and job satisfaction. So basically, subordinates are sharing a significant degree of decision-making power with superiors. So it's more about cooperation between management and employees to create an environment where people feel invested. But research has shown this has only had a modest influence on the pickup of productivity, motivation, and job satisfaction. Interestingly enough, it seems like it would work better. Okay, representative participation is another area. It's tied to redistribution of power by putting labor on a more equal footing with the interests of managers and stockholders. This is achieved by letting workers be represented by a small group of employees who participate in the decisions. So nearly every country in Western Europe requires companies to practice this representative form of participation. So this is basically where workers are represented maybe by a council or a board of employees, and some of the powers can be redistributed in the organizations where the employees, the lower level employees as a whole, have a representation body that can represent them in decision-making efforts. But this also does not appear to be very motivationally inspiring to the individual employee. Okay, so employee involvement programs and motivational theory. So this is where we're going to incorporate some stuff we talked about last chapter into this chapter. So theory why, and we remember this is where employees want to work and they want to do good and they want to achieve, is consistent with participative management. Theory X is consistent more with an autocratic style of managing, which is more the boss, drill sergeant type of boss. So the two-factor theory, employee involvement programs can provide intrinsic motivation by increasing opportunities for growth, responsibility, and involvement in the work itself. So two-factor theory is a little bit more aligned up with this involvement process. Okay, what about using pay to motivate employers? So in the previous chapter, we talked about how money is not the primary driver of job satisfaction. However, it does motivate individuals, and companies often underestimate the impact that it has in keeping top talent. And it's critical to figure out what to pay and establish a pay structure that makes sense for the industry and the organization. And it's imperative that the organization utilizes this pay system and applies it to the pay of individual employees. So basically, when you're looking about pay, what if everybody in your company was paid equally? That could be very demotivating. It might seem very fair, but it'd be very demotivating that if everybody was paid equally. So we developed a pay structure where individuals are paid based on their experience and based on their education. Now, also pay structures can be based on what benefits you offer the organization. So, for example, if you're a top salesman and you're selling $100 million worth of product, you should probably be compensated more than a salesman that only sells $10 million worth of product. So that's why commissions is a very powerful motivator, because you earn more the more you sell, and it motivates you to work harder to sell more. So you can see that pay can definitely increase motivation in employees. However, on an individual level, getting a 5% raise may motivate you for a couple of days, but you quickly forget about that and start looking towards your next raise. So sometimes your current pay isn't what's motivating you. It's the potential for getting more future pay that motivates you to do things to improve yourself and improve your work performance. Okay, so setting pay levels can be complex and require a balance of internal and external pay equity. So internal equity looks at the worth of the job in the organization and compares it to what others are making within the organization. And external equity looks at external competitiveness of an organization, pay relative to what other companies pay. So in designing what to pay for a job, you want to look at what is this job currently making in other corporations doing equal work. And internally, how important is this job to the organization? So these are factors in trying to make a strategic decision of what positions should earn which pay. And there's a lot of interesting theories and research done in open and closed payroll systems, meaning that if you have an open payroll system and everybody knows what each other makes, is that more motivating than a closed payroll system where no one knows what anybody makes? And a lot of the research has shown that the open payroll systems are more motivating because it shows that a person at this level is making this much money. I want to achieve that. I want to get to that level because that's what they're making. And it can also help with equity. So if you feel like you have an unfair pay at work, but you're not sure because you don't know what your coworkers are making, but then you find out with the open payroll system that you're actually making more than your coworkers, then that's going to be, you're going to feel very fair about that. Probably maybe a problem with the other coworkers though. So how to pay? So what's the best way to pay employees? So based on a portion of pay measured to performance. So there are several types of variable pay programs, which include one, the piece rate plan, which is basically, if you think about the piece rate plan, you're getting paid by piece. So you're getting paid for every, shirt you sew or for every, product you finish assembling. And then there's a merit-based pay. And this is paid for individuals based on performance appraisal ratings. So an advantage is that high performers can get bigger raises if it's designed correctly. So you're getting increases based on the merit, which is the value, your perceived value of you doing your job. And there's also bonuses, which bonuses are a significant component of total compensation for some jobs. An incentive, and it effectively incentivizes the performance of those who are of higher merit. Rather than, so it's more of an annual type of pay. So coming at the end of the year and basically judging your success for the entire year. And there's also skill-based pay, which centers around pay levels on how many skills an employee has or how many jobs they can do. So basically, your pay is related to how skilled you are in the workplace and how flexible these skills can be. There are profit-sharing plans where employees will share in the profits of the company. So profits are distributed as compensation. So basically saying, if the company does better, then you will get a bigger share of these profit-sharing plans. There's gain sharing, which is a formula-based group incentive plan that uses improvements in group productivity from one period to another to determine the amount of money that should be allocated to that group. So think about different competing divisions of different product lines, and if one product group is doing a lot better, they'll get a better gain share of the bonus. Okay. And 7, employee stock ownership plans, where these ESOP plans is where employees will earn stock and ownership in the company as pay, usually as stock options. Okay, let's look at variable pay programs. So variable pay programs, which is pay by piece, which is which we explained before, you get paid for the amount of output. The merit-based bonuses and skill-based pay make up this variable pay program. So a piece rate plan pays, like we said, a fixed amount of money for each unit produced. And the merit-based pay pays it's similar, but where they're paid based on their performance. So it's not really on individual units produced, it's on your overall performance. However, it's not necessarily tied to production because some jobs output is not easy to measure because they're not producing anything. They're more SG&A, sale and general administrative expenses. Bonuses are another form that is becoming increasingly popular. Bonuses are a large lump sum at the end of the year for a given period, and the amount of bonus is typically dependent upon performance of the individual or the organization, because if the organization doesn't have a profitable year, the bonuses are going to be less. And skilled pay will add compensation to workers as they gain more skills and the ability to do additional jobs. It rewards employees for continuous improvement. So the profit sharing, again, the other types of the variable pay would be the profit sharing, a gain sharing, and employee stock option plans. So profit sharing plans are organizational-wide programs where some of the profits of the company are shared by all the workers. The gain sharing is a group or where a department or unit will earn additional income if it improves the department or unit's productivity and profits from the previous period. Where ESOPs are a method used to motivate employees towards organizational goals. So as part of their benefit package, they're able to earn or purchase company stock at generally below market rates. And this has encouraged them to work harder to improve their overall productivity, so their ownership gain will increase in value. And it's important to remember that, well, it's often thought that pay does not increase. It's often common sense that pay does not increase productivity. There's a lot of research showing that increasing someone's pay doesn't actually, you give someone 5% pay increase, doesn't make them 5% more productive. But everyone responds positively to variable rate plans in general. But it's not true that it's true all the time. But most people, the reason these plans are pretty common and in place is people see them as a feedback for doing their job well. So if they do their job well and they get a good raise or bonus, it encourages them to keep doing their job well. Okay, so using benefits to motivate. So flexible benefits allow employees to choose between different benefits, and allowing them to customize their options to create a plan that best meets their needs and their situation, thus increasing their motivation because they realize the organization has their best interests in mind. So basically, individual employees will help define the benefits package most important to them. And different employees have different needs, so this flexible benefit helps to create a company that's meeting the benefit needs as close as possible to the individual, which makes the value of their job higher, which will make hopefully they'll be retained as an employee longer and have more motivation. Let's look at intrinsic rewards to motivate. Okay. So a method of motivation that has been highly successful is employee recognition programs. The idea recognizes the importance of coupling extrinsic and intrinsic methods to help motivate employees. So recognition is an intrinsic motivation technique that can be ranged from giving an employee the proverbial pat on the back to a more public recognition ceremony, such as winning an award. Recognition programs are highly effective and cost very little to administer. There are critics of such programs, however, who say that they can be politically motivated, and if the perception is that they are applied unfairly, they can cause more harm than good. But I think we all agree that recognition is good. Being recognized for a job well done or winning an award is motivating and is reinforcing employees to continue to do well. Okay, so if we look at implication for managers, managers need to recognize the individual differences between people and use goals and feedback to keep people on track and motivated, allow employees to participate in decisions that are going to affect them, and link rewards to performance, and check the reward system for equity, fairness. So this is important. So for managers, you are looked at, a big part of your job is how well you keep your employees motivated and how much your employees produce. So if your employees are more motivated, more satisfied, more appreciative of their benefits, their pay, their flexible work hours and structure, they're going to produce more. They're going to make the management look better, make the company more profitable. But you have to remember, most people respond to intrinsic job characteristics of the job characteristics model that we talked about. It is not clear that employee involvement programs work, so use caution. Variable pay plans can enhance motivation, but you're only as good as your last pay increase and then the potential for your next pay increase. So however, employee involvement programs, they're hard to measure, so we're not really clear on their benefits 100% to organizations. So that has to be looked at on a case-by-case basis. But variable pay plans definitely are in place to help motivate and push an employee forward. You just have to do a good job in tying the pay increases to actual performance measurements. Okay. So in summary, we describe the job characteristics model and the way it can help motivate employees by changing the work environment. We compared the way jobs can be redesigned. We explained how specific alternative work arrangements can motivate employees. We described how employee involvement measures can motivate employees. We demonstrated how the different types of variable pay programs can increase employee motivation. We showed how flexible benefits can turn benefits into motivators, and we identified the motivational benefits of intrinsic rewards such as employee recognition programs. So to sum this all up, if you own a company or if you're a manager in a company, you want to look at your employees and say, the more my employees can produce and perform, the more profitable my company will be. So how can I get my employees to produce at their peak and perform well? Well, employees who are motivated perform better. That is a common fact. So how can I motivate my employees to perform better? Employees want to feel valued. They want to feel their inputs matter. They want to feel that their job is tailored to them, so they have an appreciation for the job. So flexible benefits and flexible time schedules, and also coordination with managers and setting goals and setting performance characteristics help employees to feel invested in the job and lead to a greater job satisfaction, job enrichment, and job motivation. So if employers look at employees and say, I want you to be a highly functional, effective, and producing employee, the employers have to rethink that one-size-fits-all model for employment. And they have to really look at these jobs and say, okay, would I want to do this job? And probably most managers for a lot of jobs would say no. Well, what can I do to make this job better? And there are certain things, characteristics of the job can be redesigned. Different aspects of employment can be enhanced. And employment can be more tailored to each individual employee to make the benefits, the pay, and the overall structure of their hours worked and how they work and when they work more flexible and tailored to the individual employee. And that's going to make them feel special, motivated, and value the position longer, which should hopefully translate into them staying longer at the company and also performing at a higher level. And why do we want employees to stay longer? Because a lot of money is spent in training and developing employees, and a lot of experience is lost when someone leaves. So having a person who is satisfied and motivated staying longer helps to create a motivated environment to motivate other employees, and helps to also constantly increase their efficiency. If anybody worked at a job for more than 5 years, you could see how much more efficient you are in that 5th year compared to where you were when you started in that 1st year. But the key thing is you're not going to stay in a job that's a dead end or unmotivating to the work that you're producing. So this is why management has to take a keen look at how they motivate their employees and keep them, feedback is crucial to keep this feedback loop where, managers want to improve employees' motivation. Managers need to seek feedback about, are you motivated? What can we do to improve your motivation? What is the hindrance? And see if they can, improve it. So when you have this manager to worker level communication and cooperation, that leads to more participation and increases the motivation. Okay, that's it for this lecture. I will see you next time.